Bow wow.
Welcome to DogStar. We are Sun Dogs, and we have the pleasure today of sitting down with J.Prynglz. Hi.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming through. We know you're a busy boy.
Try to stay busy. Try to make sure that I'm doing a lot of different things if I can. You know, idle hands makes it so that you don't write as good, they say.
Well, I am sure that's true. Yeah. Well, to kick it off, we want to start with your Marvel origin story.
Musically.
Okay.
So yeah, you're in what, 2 bands right now, and also doing rap stuff independently?
I think that's a fair way to put it. Yeah.
Crowd strokes.
Yeah, with the B&E rap guys.
Yeah,
correct?
B&E Music. Shout out to everybody there. I love you boys.
So where did music enter your life? When did you start thinking that? Because it normally starts with you think people doing music are cool. So when did that happen for you?
The moment that I was like, I want to be doing music,
Mm-hmm.
that's a really good question. It's kind of tough to fully describe it, but I'd say that it was still when I was in high school, really classic origin, of I got 2 guys. One of these dudes knows how to drum. The other guy knows how to play guitar.
Yes.
But they don't know each other. And I can't do anything. So I could probably, I could sing. Like if anybody can sing, everyone will tell people, oh, you can sing pretty good. I can hear you in the shower. I never heard that, but I was like, I can do it.
Right.
So.
What kind of music were you listening to growing up then?
It was a lot of KQRS, 92.5 was a pretty common thing. It was a lot of Steve Miller Band. You got
Rock
Steppenwolf. Yeah, well, and I mean, exactly. It was kind of that full spectrum.
It is
of
the hits.
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes. I think, both of my parents had a fairly mainstream taste. My mom probably had a little bit more of a fringe interest in that, but yeah. So it was
KQ
kind of
households.
Yeah, it was classic rock growing up. And then I remember turning 13, maybe I was 12, and one of my cousins, I'm getting into their car, and we're driving somewhere that's close by, but they have a CD, and I'm listening, and I'm going, what is this? I've never heard this before. And I look at it, and it's Iowa from Slipknot, right? Their second album. At the time, no idea, figuring this is the newest thing on Earth because I just discovered it.
Yeah.
No one else is aware. Why isn't the world different because this exists?
That's such a fun thing with music when you find some new music and can't wait to share it with other people.
Yeah, well, I mean, because it instantly made me more interested in, I guess, the stuff that I was hearing on 93X. And, before I'd been like, oh, okay, it's heavier stuff. It's heavier rock than what my parents like, but I don't mind it.
Right.
Then I was like, okay, hold on. I need to go actually figure out what is this band like Disturbed all about? What is this band System of a Down like? What are the other songs that they have? So it led to, I think, what everyone ends up feeling at some point when you do the rabbit hole of music, right? When you're really in just fully discovering and getting inspired as you go, being like, well, wait, what if they did this? What if someone else did it differently?
Yeah,
totally.
I think that was kind of the spark, honestly, though, was, Slipknot.
And then, thought you could fill the role as a singer of a band. Had you been doing any, writing before that, creative writing or, poetry or anything like that? How did you think that you could come up with words?
That part, I think, was actually really easy because, before I was doing the whole trying to get these guys together in high school to even just do band stuff on days we could finally do it, I was always the kid that was filling up notebooks, whether it was writing lyrics or putting designs in it, just that inattentive, that not bad and severe enough that I'm getting diagnosed ever, but every school year I just have different yearbooks that were filled up with notes, So I had been writing, I had been having a lot of words just come out of me because I read a lot as a kid. And having a big vocabulary was something I always kind of held in a higher esteem. If it was possible to find a different word to use, well, I would choose that one then.
Yeah.
What were some of the standout books that you read as a child, or series?
Yeah.
Or maybe that have, not even children's books, but...
Yeah, no, I guess Roger Zelazny, who is like kind of a mid-70s, even earlier than that potentially, sci-fi writer, had a series called The Chronicles of Amber. That really was like, it blew my mind as a kid. You know, it was this story about this guy doing these incredible like journeys and going on these adventures, and all of the ridiculousness of how the world was built just made sense when I was like 10 and 11. I'm like, I don't question that this guy is able to do this right now, you know? Stephen King was another big one. Like, he really informed me at a young age, where I think Christine was the first book that I read of his, and kind of intense material for when I'm like 12 or 13.
I was gonna say.
But I think I've been lucky enough to like grow up where it was always encouraged to discover things and then come ask questions about what you don't understand. Right. Especially if I was reading, compared to like just watching a movie or playing a video game that's probably going to depict some of the same stuff, like, you know, crashing cars and twisted metal. You know, your parents would be like, "Oh my God, no, they're teaching you to." So, Stephen King, Roger Zelazny, two really big names that majorly made a lot of impressions on me as a kid. So. Yeah,
and I totally can attest to reading, you know, giving you that good vocabulary,
love
that good form, the love for language.
Exactly. It's like, man, if I could, like telling a story like this is the way to go. You know, even if you're telling somebody about your day, you can now tell it in an interesting way because you've read an interesting story.
And you know, when you get inspiration from something that's obscure enough, everyone around you goes, "How did he come up with that? How did they do that? Where were they able to think that up from?" Well, I'm gonna tell you the truth. It was like a guy you haven't heard of, or a girl you have never even heard of that wrote that already. So it just kind of shows that we always have been sharing stories since the beginning of time. But you know, so it's funny. I had all these words and I had these notebooks that were pouring out. I finally get into this band, and the Slipknot CD made such an impact because I went, hold on. Like, Corey Taylor, amazing vocalist. Right. But I would not say that he is an amazing singer. Like, he sings, and he does it adequately and well, professionally. Like, that guy will knock stadium down night after night. I know he can do that.
True, so true.
But I was listening to him going, what is this noise that he does when he's not singing? I think I can do that. And much to my parents' dismay, I was instantly like, I'm going to be a metal vocalist. I started really getting into like some of the classics. I was listening to Slayer, Megadeth. I'd go and listen to the big four, pretty much being like, all right, let's start with mainstream metal. Yeah. Let's see what there is there. And from there, it was just a rocket ship, you know?
That's awesome.
And I was going to ask you weren't in choir at all growing up, or in church choir? Or it was just the kind of natural love for music from the smooth rock of the 20th century into this metal phase.
It's funny because I did have like a rich musical history while I was in like just the public K through 8, you know, going to Minneapolis public schools. Because when I started as a kindergartner, I think first to like third grade, we were learning viola. And then, you know, by the time we got to fourth grade, you had, and this was, I think, if you chose to like be in the elective of doing music, right? But this was at a time, you got to remember, where it's 96. So pushing the arts is so important right now. We're coming out of booming economy. Everything looks great. The average consumer is happy. And so like, art was super important, right? And I got to grow up with that being such a wonderful part of what our infrastructure was giving. But yeah, so I learned viola, and then in fourth grade, I got to do that up until I was a junior in high school of trumpet. And so, you know, I played trumpet for, I guess that's almost like 6-7 years, but...
Oh, what, ska band wasn't on the radar?
I was just saying, earlier you said you didn't play any instruments, and I was thrown off.
That isn't on the radar in the future. You know, if you're out there and you got a ska band, we could talk about clarinets, saxophones, all these different things. I'm not saying I can play those, but I can play with them on a trumpet.
So if we gave you a trumpet right now, you could play the trumpet. At least like a standard or a little hot cross buns.
Until I see the trumpet here. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I could do that right now. I could belt you out something that would be amazing.
I could write you a trumpet, symphony.
Oh, right. Yeah. I would do something that would make Dizzy Gillespie proud. I guarantee you.
Guarantee.
So very, very musical background. And it honestly, surprises me. From the public school, especially because my experience was more just the ta-ta, ti-ti-ta.
Recorder.
Play the recorder. Sure. Choose to do choir. Choose to do band if you want to.
Bones.
Yeah.
Okay.
So know how to read music. Have a great ear for music, and obviously that translated into your natural singing.
Yeah, I guess I've never gone and gotten like any sort of lessons, especially when it came to being like an extreme vocalist. Like
totally.
I guess
didn't go to Tibet or Mongolia.
Well, I mean, the Zen of Screaming by Miss Cross, she is kind of a wizard when it comes to how she seems to be able to help a lot of people that are doing what I do for vocals out, teaching them techniques to make sure that they're not blowing their vocal cords out. First and foremost. But
is that a book or a class? Or?
Yeah, it's kind of like a DVD book combo that cool. I know at least for a while she had done it. I'm pretty sure you could find a copy, whether it's direct from her website or something. I'm not here to plug her, but she's one of the few examples of like being able to independently try to do this without like feeling, because it's really weird to try to go and even like another vocalist that is really talented and capable in the Twin Cities. It's like, there's an awkwardness, especially even if you have no problem swallowing your pride to ask for help. They usually go, I'm a little thrown off right now by your candor, frankly.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. And then, so no, formal training in the singing. What was the first band's name? And did you use a stage name when you were in it? Did you have like a character name as the lead singer?
That's a great question. No, I kind of, it's funny. My favorite part about being in Glass Eyes now is how fun that character is.
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't have a proper, like, what is J.Prynglz?
Yeah.
Who is J.Prynglz? When I show up to a show, what do people expect?
Mm-hmm.
And like with Glass Eyes, there's no question.
Yeah.
And so I think the first band that I was in, we were called Breaking Day.
Okay.
And we had our first gig at the Red Sea.
Hey-o.
I don't know if you played the Red Sea. Yeah. And I remember it was at a time where whoever was kind of doing the in-house sound and stuff, they would essentially get a copy of your set for you, and I don't know if they still do that nowadays, but they offered to essentially record it, give it to you, and let you be able to hear yourself. And
oh man,
our first show ever, we went, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. We're going to sound so good. We're going to be throwing it up to producers like, hey, Roadrunner.
Check it out.
Yeah, I remember the feeling the next day when we listened back being like, wow, guys, I don't think we were as good as we thought we were. It was a humbling experience to say the least.
And early on.
Yeah, and so that was kind of, like I said, with the pair of these guys, and then we had really quickly brought in a bassist, and, that was actually like Sam Howell of Wakefield, who is, he's the bassist in Wakefield, and that's the a band that Benny, Meshmouth, in Glass Eyes. So there's like this real connectivity going on in all these different bands that I get to like, I'm like collaborating in small ways, helping out here and there. And they're still like buddies of mine that like 15 years ago, I was starting to do music with them. It's awesome. But I'm tangenting on that.
Hey, that's what we're here to do.
Is that, so those four came in, and then we got another guitarist, and then we got to a point of we were like, okay, we need to break away from like, no pun intended, from Breaking Day. We need to like come up with something that's going to break some new ground here.
Breaking Night.
Yeah. And it's funny because we went and we saw Daybreakers. Do you guys remember that with Josh Hartnett, Willem Dafoe, where it's what if vampires have taken over the world and now they all live, they control everything.
Oh, wow. No,
and it's
I've never
about
seen
Willem
that.
Dafoe and Josh Hartnett realizing we can turn this around. We can end the vampire virus. It's a terrible movie. I mean, if you're looking for like a fun popcorn, like I'm just going to sit here and watch it and have fun with someone. Great movie for that. But we saw that and we went, we don't like the name Breaking Day anymore. Because that was like the same day that we had this first show and everything. So after that, we turned our name into the Atlantis Theorem. And then we played a bunch of different stuff. We kind of did like 3-4 years worth of playing shows. We were actually out at the 2012 Summer Slaughter Tour at the Eagles Rave Club in Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Whoa.
So that was kind of like our big, my personal big claim to fame, because then we kind of did a breaking of ways. They went and continued doing music on that, under that name, and they were doing stuff up until I think like 2017, actually.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
So the name, the Atlantis Theorem, had a real great run as far as I'm concerned.
What does it feel like when you do have to depart a band for one reason or another? Is it that, I mean, I'm sure it depends on the circumstance, but is it hard? Is it like breaking up with a significant other, like a death of a loved one, or?
Well, I don't know if I'd say it's usually as severe as the death of a loved one, but, certain people would say that breaking up with a person is like the death of a loved one, because they're like, out of my life. Some people cut them off, no problem. They didn't really have that much attachment to begin with. But I think, when you get really ingratiated with people, when your lives are working on tandem so long that you're like synchronous with each other, trying to end those things is always going to have these feelings of like tendons that have grown over time getting pulled apart.
Totally.
So most of the time that I've had a band either not work out or walked away myself, it was always with a heavy heart,
Totally.
You're never leaving going, whew, thank goodness I gave up on my dreams of doing it with those guys. Now I'm going to go do it on my own.
Right.
Some people can bounce back immediately. It's kind of their defense mechanism, right?
Totally.
I usually am a little bit too rounded to be like, I'm right away going to be back up. It's like, it's going to take me a while. Just let me roll.
Yeah, let me reboot, because it's almost, it is starting from scratch. It's like, I don't know.
Rebirth.
Heavy.
Yeah. So we've got about a minute left. Do you want to run through your like current social medias for everybody?
Oh, yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram at J.Prynglz. That's J.Prynglz. And it's pretty much the exact same thing on every other platform, whether it's Twitter, whether it's following me on Facebook, except there is a J.Prynglz.
And that's on Spotify as well.
J.Prynglz on Spotify, Apple, pretty much any of the major services that DistroKid helps us with.
Beautiful.
DistroKid.
Heyo.
Big DistroKid fan. Excellent. We're going to talk about that when we come back from the break.
Yeah, you can follow us, DogStar Podcast. You can
follow Glass Eyes at Glass Eyes Minnesota on Instagram. You can follow B&E at Official B&E Music on Instagram. And you can follow Glad to Be Dead at Glad to Be Dead Band, all on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Easy peasy, baby. We'll be right back after a little break, and we'll find out what happens when you left the partnerships that you were in. Bow wow.
Well, welcome back to DogStar, and we're in the middle of sitting down with J.Prynglz. We were just talking about DistroKid. So for the artist who hasn't released any music yet, what does DistroKid provide you? Why'd you guys choose to go with DistroKid as a distribution service?
That's a great question. I think that for B&E Music, it was a choice that was based on the fact that we're a larger collaboration.
Right.
That it isn't just one of us trying to do it. So there was a lot of different things compared to other certain services that appealed more to us. It was kind of also just you're getting your toes into making sure you're starting to understand legitimacy. You want to make sure that you go with something that is widely used and trusted by a lot of people that aren't on some sort of major label. So,
and that'll put you on Spotify, Apple Music, everything, or is there certain criteria if you're sampling things, if you guys even sample stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, they do their service essentially does a really good job of making sure that it's saving you the time of screening through everything, of making sure to check for, is this clean or not? Because if you say, yes, it is, and then they go, the service goes, you're not qualifying for this because we can clearly find that there is something. Sometimes it's making a mistake, right?
Right.
But in general, it saves you a lot of that, because nothing would suck more than you finally do have a release that's doing really well and it gets pulled down. Like, I think a lot of people tend to overreact when those sort of things happen. They go, this is someone that's personally out to get me. And more often than not, our systems are more complicated than one person generally can do. So have people that are helping you out with different parts of it. And DistroKid essentially becomes another person helping you out.
Yeah. Okay. Just checking, like you said, saving your time and saving you the hassle of doing that yourself.
Yeah,
That's
and I
huge.
mean, some of it even comes down to it doesn't do as good of a job as another person that you could be paying to do the stuff that it will do for you, obviously.
But in the artist realm,
it gives you an acceptable thing that you can use independently, so that people go, "Oh, wow, even he's coming up with funny memes for his single that he's dropping next week." Like I don't blame band pages that turn into meme pages, because when you don't have shows to promote or new singles to put out, how do you keep people engaged to the page?
Right. Gotta do something.
Yeah, exactly. So
and we were also talking about before the break, breaking up with the Atlantis theorem.
Yeah,
was that it?
yeah.
Yeah. What was the breakup like for you? You said you can't really bounce back, or don't tend to bounce right back or rebound super aggressively. But what happened between that and your next musical project?
I mean, I think it was as simple as just not being sure if I wanted to keep doing it.
Oh.
Like
pints of ice cream, crying yourself to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to like just hit the alarm, snooze it again, just like, no, let me be in my cave of sorrow.
Self-doubt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least a little bit of that. And dramatizations aside, it was just a lesson to learn. It's the same as, you had asked about, is it a relationship? Does it feel like that? Like, absolutely, it hurts that way. Absolutely, it was hard for me to be like, oh, these were people I trusted, that I was vulnerable with, and now we don't get to do things together anymore. And, I was able to get over it eventually, and then I actually, one door closes, a window opens, they say, in that sense of it helped me then start meeting with newer people. And I don't think that if I had left that band, I would have ended up in B&E Music. So
how'd you end up running into the crew?
Well, because I think the Atlantis theorem had given me the opportunity to play some shows with PJ's band. And so I had already met him at least once or twice. And so, long before he was the prodigious, I don't know the right word to say, like that guy is, the iconic Papa Squad.
Yeah.
He was just a bassist in this band where he came off stage and he ended up like completely pile driving into my drummer, who was just moshing with me, because that was part of what they were doing for that song, was he put his stuff down and ran out there, So it was easy for me to kind of then know him enough to be like, hey, this isn't just random grapevine reaching out on Facebook to be like, hey, random stranger, do you want to do stuff?
Right.
And that really helped lead into, like, we did a reggae band that didn't end up getting its feet firmly enough under it to stand up.
Called what?
That would have been Los Ojos Rojo.
Oh, okay. I think I might have heard a hidden track or an unreleased track.
There's potential that there's some stuff out there. I'd have to double check to see if it survived the hard drives. But
the creative ups and downs.
Yeah. Well, and when you're at basement bottom, you're not too worried about how many audio recordings do we have. It's more like we need to get a set list figured out, because we've got songs, but we don't know how we're going to play them in what order.
True.
It was kind of dark ages for that one.
I mean, through those dark ages, how did your songwriting process develop?
Well, it was interesting to go from, essentially trying to imitate what bands like Atreyu and All That Remains, like that metalcore sound was what the Atlantis theorem was all about. And so it was really wonderful to completely depart from that, to suddenly be trying to figure out, like, I'm spending more time than ever listening to like Bob Marley, trying to figure out, like, how does he sing like that? How do I like emulate that? How do I mimic that? It was helpful for that process, but at the same time, I like making wordy songs. I like there being a lot of lyrics going on, and it was very hard for me to not make some songs seem a bit comedic with how much I was talking while it's a reggae song. It starts really quickly sounding like,
skit.
Alice's Restaurant. Yeah, exactly. Just a skit kind of going on. So there was some downsides there, but it led to us trying another deathcore band that, again, same problem. We just didn't really get a full enough cohesion between the members to be able to make it work out. But I mean, interesting thing there is that like the guitarist that was in that band with us, he went on to be in Waste. And I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they are like kind of quietly crushing a bunch of stuff here in the state. Like they're like a really spectacular live experience. Okay. And so just another example of like how even though my projects didn't like pan out and didn't make it big, well, other people are in big things now. And I'm really happy with how like Glass Eyes is doing, and Glad to Be Dead's finally got a lot of stuff going on themselves. And I even got stuff for J.Prynglz. Right. It's pretty awesome. So,
yeah, was that your first like dipping your toes into rap when you met up with B&E? Because you said you had notebooks full and you could have rapped any of those lyrics before. Did you ever imagine your lyrics as rap lyrics?
I think, it's funny because when I first started showing up to B&E, I'm like, hey guys, I'm like a metal screamer. I'm a metalcore guy. I'm going to give you screams. That's what I've known how to do. I really don't want to pretend or pose as if like, yeah, I can give you guys an 8-bar right now. Because at that point I would have been like, I got a 6-bar verse for you, no problem. And everyone would have just shook their heads and been like, pathetic. Yeah. So I got really lucky to very much the same as like with schooling, just being around so many of these guys that are in B&E. Just seeing the work ethic and the like morals that Papa Squat brings into the whole thing for the rest of us. The way that like Skydro, Mr. Legacy, and Nacho, they've been doing this stuff for a long time. Like potentially longer than I have. And I respect the heck out of them for that, So, I didn't have any experience at all. No, I don't think I could have rapped. I showed up, and after saying I'm a metal screamer, I started freestyling, and they went, that's actually not terrible. Yeah. That's hold on. Like, are you serious that you're doing that right now? You memorized that. And I'm like, no, I can do something else and try again if you want. Right. All right, you stick around. We'll see what you got.
This guy can write. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, fast forward 7 years now, and finally I've been doing hip hop for 7 years. It's weird.
Yeah. What do you think? You're saying that a few of the bands didn't stick or whatever. B&E obviously has stuck, or you've stuck with them. Mm-hmm. What do you think the difference is? Or can you see any maybe insight into what helps stick a group together?
I think the insight that I could give, especially if it's like other artists that are trying to figure out how to collaborate and make it so that they're maintaining lasting relationships, is that you gotta be accepting that you're going to be vulnerable and you're going to get hurt, and you got to know how to gauge quality of a person. You know what I mean? It's not just about someone promising that they can do all of these flashy things and that you're going to have these incredible eye-opening experiences and it's all going to happen. You don't got to worry about anything. Like that almost to me is like a red flag. It should be that you have someone that says you are either going to be 1 in 1% of the general population and you're that good, or you're going to have to work really hard.
Right.
I trust that person because they're giving me something that's realistic.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say about the ones that didn't stick. I think having people like a large band together, anytime that it's over like 3 or 4 people, it's all of them are in a relationship. And how many of us haven't experienced being in a relationship where it takes a while, but we realize, oh no, we kind of want different things. Like it didn't matter for a while, but now that we're getting to a stage of building off of the foundation of the roots we have, it kind of does matter because we don't agree. So I think it's important to be able to let those things go then.
Right.
Like, why stay in something toxic, especially if you haven't already been making, like, you're selling out 7th Street when you play. Yeah. Like, if you're at that point, well, you're probably making enough off of merch and just selling the show out that go ahead, stay in that tough relationship if you want. But
right.
none of the ones I was in had that predicament.
And was it like switching from a team sport to a single sport, switching to the hip hop, kind of shaking some of that off?
It was massively weird. Like going from feeling like, as a frontman in a metal band, you're expected to be moving all the time, especially when you're not doing vocals. You get to just go over to that guitarist and start headbanging next to him. You get to give people the horns, and they're like, yes, it's genius. How did he think of it?
I mean, were you like water spitter or water thrower or? I'm sure not any blood or any.
I liked the water spit above the head. Whichever wrestler, I can't
remember. Where it
remember.
Looks like a mist almost.
Yeah. I was into that.
That's dope.
I never liked the onto the crowd stuff. Like
that's more punk.
Yes. I guess for me, it was always one of those just like, not a germaphobe, but slightly myself being like, I don't want to be the guy that's up there and that guy happens to do it to me.
Right.
You don't know which one of us want that on us. Which one of us is going to,
Yeah, it's always like a ride at Disneyland. It's like, I don't want to get wet. I don't want to get sprayed.
Yeah, unless
this water
you want to
smells
get
weird.
wet on the ride, it's not nice.
No.
But having all that experience as a front man on stage, walking into the hip hop game, that had to be a huge asset.
Yes, I think it really helped me do the fake it till you make it thing of the first few shows that I did pre-COVID, before pandemic, before shutdown and all of that, like some rocky rapids that I might have taken my canoe down in that metaphor of how the shows went.
Around like 2018 or like 2017 even.
Yeah, I suppose as far back as 2017. I mean, I kind of had the benefit of I was able to be on stage and experience what that felt like for hip hop by like getting features on different songs with different guys within B&E.
Nice.
Cool.
Where they were like, hey, I know that you're not feeling like you can write enough yet to have a full product, but why don't you make a verse and get on this? Or why don't you sing this chorus for me?
Cool.
So that was awesome because Skydra was the first one to be like, J.Prynglz, I see some potential in you, and
nice.
So that helped at least give me enough experience to be like, okay, so with hip hop, it looks kind of weird if I'm going to constantly be jumping up and down if the beat isn't, like a drill beat, like it isn't like go, 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 go. And hip hop has a lot more nuance in how fast or slow it's going compared to a lot of metal because metal wants to be fast or brutally slow.
Right.
The in between is for other people. So.
And that led up to your first release, Profit Over People, correct? In July of 2018?
Yeah. And that was kind of just an accumulation of, I go, okay, I got these 3 tracks. I better actually just put something out finally.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that I establish history appropriately. Because I had been sitting on them for like maybe 6 months, maybe almost a year of being worried. I wanted to make more. I wanted to have an actual product. No, I want to have a full EP, like all that ego stuff that you go through. And at the end of the day, I was able to get a little bit of guidance and help from the rest of B&E. And they reminded me like, it's up to you when you want to do it, but don't you want to be able to look back and see how long it's been out later on?
Yeah.
And they were all right. Like another piece of insight, just release that thing. If you're trying to be perfectionist, just release it.
Yeah, write it down, record it, get it out, move on to your new emotions. And
exactly. Carpe diem. Live for today, not for what you did yesterday. Get it out today. Now experience that thrill,
Speaking of thrills, what were some of the venues here in Minnesota or out of state that you kind of polished your rap chops at in those first few years?
Oh, well, it's funny because I think that we were kind of doing residency at Ziggy's out in Stillwater.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to really at least do the whole experiencing, being on stage, performing, understanding how it's going to go in a hip hop show. I got to observe and learn a lot, for a couple of years.
What's the rap scene like out there? I've never been to a show in Stillwater, and there's no college out there, is there?
No.
The townies?
It's I imagine townies. It's very touristy. Stillwater's one of those places where if you can end up playing it on a Saturday when it's a warm night in June, you're probably gonna have a lot of people that end up staying out because they're like, well, we already came out for the day. Let's stay out and have a few cocktails.
Yeah, a lot of bars. They've got that cool park with that amphitheater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Stillwater was a cool place, but it's kind of funny because I feel like a lot of the more like places with real standing history came from like a lot of the metal and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
For hip hop, Club Underground has been a really wonderful place to me. Like every time I'm there, it feels like they're taking care of me. I've played the North Star Bar over in St. Paul. I've done a number of different, like, I don't know if you'd call them performances, but longer open mic sets at like 11 Wells over in St. Paul too. Cool. You know, so I like to be out doing the performing of it when, especially if it's like, okay, we don't got any shows booked this month. Shoot, I'm getting antsy. You know, like that allows me to still plug things in between. And, you know, it's not a bad way to just always get reminded there are new people out there and you're going to always meet something new, you know.
You had mentioned Club Underground, and we're going to have to take a break here in a bit. But when we come back, we're going to talk briefly about a show that you had just done at Club Underground on St. Paddy's Day.
Yeah. It was lots of green in the air.
Well, we're, again, if you're just tuning in, which why would you just be tuning in? We're sitting down with J.Prynglz here on DogStar. We're going to be right back.
Wow.
Right after this.
And we're back. Sorry to cut you off, but sitting down with J.Prynglz, we want to talk to you a little bit about that St. Paddy's show.
Yeah, what's your rehearsal process? How do you prepare for a show like that?
Great question. You know, I'm lucky enough that since I'm in a couple different projects right now, I get a lot of opportunities to practice in general. But it's pretty much like weekly practices. Are really important. You got to make sure that you're staying on top of doing your craft, you know. And then I guess day of show, it's always about just trying to enjoy that day. Don't let the whole thing get wrapped up in the performance you're doing. Like a lot of people, you know, they can go to work and then go to a show. And some of them probably prefer that because they're like, I'm at work all day. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to do. I'm just going to show up and do it now.
Yeah.
Because, otherwise you end up just sitting there all day being like, I could watch a movie, but then I might lose this creative juice that I have flowing. I'm ready to do it now. Well, it's going to be at 8 p.m., not at 3 in the afternoon. Yeah. So find something to do productive. You know?
Yeah. Are you guys rehearsing like with PAs on? Like, are you rehearsing into the mic?
Yeah. I get the chance to pretty much like, you know, there's always the good in the car, get a practice belted out. You can close the windows and no one has to call the cops because especially some of my sets, they'd be like, oh my goodness, there is something going on.
Yes.
But I get the opportunity thanks to B&E Music where I got numerous different options for how I can really practice and make sure that I'm getting the best opportunity to be ready. You know, and that just comes with time management. You know, so
that weekly rehearsal at least that's a huge piece of advice for up and coming artists.
Well, yeah, I mean, hey, I'm going to practice what I preach, even though I'm done now. I'm going to be practicing next week as if I have another show on Friday again. You know,
to stay on top of it, exactly.
Which I mean, it only takes until I think it's April 21st. I'm going to be down in Mankato for Glass Eyes, so I got another show that quick. That's right around the corner, you know.
And you mentioned time management with at least three musical projects actively going, just scheduling out that time, and it seems overwhelming as an observer, but it seems like you've been doing it for so long. It's all just about reserving those
Google Calendar, talking to people. Having lists. Make sure you have notes in your phone. Just keep track of stuff. Like, it is a lot of work.
Right.
But you practice it because it's a skill set. You get better and better. 7 years in, we're now good enough where other people go, how are they doing that?
Supernatural. At least, again, that's what it seems from the outside perspective. You and that whole crew have got it on lock.
For sure. Well, you brought two tracks.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to talk about which one?
Two very different vibes. The first track we're going to talk about is "Vulnerable" featuring IPA.
Oh yeah.
Which was a single released under J.Prynglz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the first thing that I'm putting out since I've done my pair of EPs that both came out right in 2021.
Yeah.
2020, sorry.
Furry Urns and An Empty Garden.
Yes. And so I'm excited because I think there are more people than I still even believe. It humbles me that a lot of people are like, when are you going to make more? Like, I like what you do. And I'm like,
wow.
Okay. Yeah, that's my exact thinking. It's just,
like, who, me?
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that I get to finally appease them, because this one is very J.Prynglz. Like, some people say that the way that I choose to make my verses or the subject matter can be like grating, but I think this song and IPA, he comes in, IPA does such a great job of just bringing the exact same tone that I'm trying to bring. It's breaking down the questions of, why is this normal? And why is that considered weird? Why is that not normal? Across a bunch of different topics.
Yeah. What like moments in your life would that like song pop into your head? Because that's kind of how I remember songs, where it's like, oh, if somebody cuts me off in traffic, I got get out the way in my head. It's just like, what kind of situations would that song?
That's a good question.
Would you jam to that song, or what kind of day would you be having if you played that song?
I think it's an angry song. I think it's like a day where you're feeling angry and you're like, I need something that makes me feel good. The same way that like Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit is still iconic to this day, because some people are like, it is just one of those days. You know what I mean?
Yep, need that outlet.
Exactly.
Were you going through any? Was it just, why is this normal in general? That kind of like realization that inspired that song, or was it anything?
I would be honest. I think it was kind of like events that happened on January 6th made me really, really upset. And so a lot of what I'm putting into that song is kind of coming from that perspective of just how divisive so many different landscapes and platforms felt for quite a while, and still, frankly, right now. You know what I mean? There's been a shockwave of just how people react to that happening. So.
And this, I'm sorry to cut you off. We're just running out of time. The second track you sent with us is the Glad to Be Dead track, Dealership single. Can we expect more from Glad to Be Dead?
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that I'm not about to like give away any names, or I don't unfortunately have any teaser art to give you guys for that. But,
I guess specifically about Dealership, if you could talk about the songwriting process of that.
So Dealership, it's kind of funny. We got done doing the Cutest Boys in Deathcore.
Yes.
And the EP was like a blast. It was fun. We ended up capping it off by going out to a cabin in Stillwater, and we celebrated, and
that was released in November of 2021, by the way.
Yeah. And then we get to now, we're in 2023, and there was kind of like we had different career shifts happening for different people, and you got to respect that. Especially in this day and age, all of us need to have that secure W-2 coming in before we can be doing our music. And that's part of my reality, especially being in even numerous groups.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The first part of the question, I think I didn't answer.
Just the more so the I mean, I don't want you to give away what you can't give away, but like what was going on in the songwriting the content of the lyrics, which I'm going to be honest, it's hard for me to understand sometimes, but the feeling, you know what I'm saying? The feeling of the juxtaposition of the melodic stuff versus the guttural noises. Is there a name for those?
Screams. I mean, I think you got it right where, like a guttural scream, like when it sounds like it's a toilet bowl, that's kind of like gutter, and then the other side is you have that really high pterodactyl, and that's like fry scream, Okay. So, and then you got false chord screaming, and there's a whole litany of like different ways you can scream. But you're asking about the song, and that ultimately kind of came down to, if you guys haven't seen it, Trigun. I made a character, and I do a lot of D&D. I made a situation and a story that I could end up having people play in, and I went, hold on, wait, I actually know the story of what happens here. And, it's from the perspective of a character that's going on in this story. So
I love that.
A little bit of a concept, but just for the single. I don't have a whole booklet.
Are you going to perform that song in April at the Mankato show?
So that would be Glass Eyes that's doing the Mankato show. So I don't get a chance yet. Yeah, no, I'm really excited for when we finally, we're cooking a little bit right now, getting our other stuff.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. That means we're out of time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is DogStar. This has been J.Prynglz.
Thank you for having me, guys.
See you next week.
Wow.
the devil, give him my warmest regards. I'll take violence to another level. Never need to stop, never need to settle. I'm a 5 points in, draw the circle, call the devil, give him my warmest regards. Force it into people, entropy, fear and greed. Turn them into perfect puppets who never stop and think. In over my head, inside indoctrination. Blasphemy, sin, Holy Father and Satan. Blood on my hands for being a human. Now teach me regret before I become lucid. Keep me in debt, keep me depressed and meandering. Keep me in check to continue my struggling. Leave me to death without a penny of security. I'll be long dead before anybody notices your greed. Notices the dead thing, notices the dead leaves. Notices the death you cause constantly. It's easy to watch it burn when it's all behind a screen, but when the fire licks your heels, you'll be the first to scream. Your differences and neighbors' choices when the siren sounds are real won't give you a louder voice, and is a fear revealed. I'll take violence to another level. Never need to stop, never need to settle. I'm a 5 points in, draw the circle, call the devil, give him my warmest regards. I'll take violence to another level. Never need to stop, never need to settle. I'm a 5 points in, draw the circle, call the devil, give him my warmest regards.
And we are spiraling to the end of days. Close your eyes if you're too afraid. Keep sucking on that blue pill, cause it is too real. You will not keep up with the pace. Been alone since a moment, my focus has shifted. Take a little trip and elevate my mind. Looking at the world that's full of these lies. You will not find out where phony resides. Disillusion is damaging eyes. That's why we're all mismanaging life. Go and read your scriptures, go plead to Christ. This road we've been led, gon' lead to crisis. It's kinda sad that hatred appeals. True nature has been revealed. They keep us all trapped and ill, then act like it's no big deal. I can't adjust to these limitations. This cannabis is keeping me from breaking. I'm fired up like this hit I'm taking. You supply the trust and they gonna take it, so no need to rush. Gotta keep it patient, stay true enough in this fake nation. Call their bluff or there's no escaping. Notice there's a shift in the mind control population. Begin to let up on bullshit, then heighten the motivation. To live a life with regret only keeps the focus fading. Stand heavy on your own feet or get played on your preservation of rights.
I'll take violence to another level. Never need to stop, never need to settle. I'm a 5 points in, draw the circle, call the devil, give him my warmest regards. I'll take violence to another level. Never need to stop, never need to settle. I'm a 5 points in, draw the circle, call the devil, give him my warmest regards. I am ready to flip the script on staying civil. I'm too stoned to keep acting normal. I am ready to turn the fucking tables. Where's my family? What's my name? Don't worry, I'll call when I'm able. Landing right now would prove more than fatal. Give me a cruising altitude and I can keep myself stable. You can even tie me up with like a wire or a cable. Let me hang out long enough to become a myth or a fable. Then turn around and give me another unneeded label. Something weird, something different, scraped together, full of undertones. Something that makes daily life unavoidable. Once you've had a taste, you'll feel unstoppable. Resilient, tough as get off the obstacles. Combative kid, armed with a broken bottle. Condemned by the state, but still heavy on the throttle. Things are getting hot back home. I'll take violence to another level. Never need to stop, never need to settle. I'm a 5 points in, draw the circle, call the devil, give him my warmest regards. I'll take violence to another level. Never need to stop, never need to settle. I'm a 5 points in, draw the circle, call the devil, give him my warmest regards.
that for some, the only escape is through drugs.
How can a chemical substance provide an escape?
It doesn't. But it makes you think it does. You have to understand, drugs can make you feel good.